Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Germany. Tonight we will be making authentic German goulash, and I say that, and you should take that with a grain of salt, because when I did my research there were dozens of recipes all claiming to be authentic and all of them having minor differences. So what I did was I took the common elements to most of those recipes, put them together into a composite recipe that I think more closely matches what authentic goulash should be like. The reason that we're doing this on a video instead of doing it live is because from start to finish it takes about 3 hours to make the goulash, and there are a lot of elements that I will not be able to demonstrate live that I can show you on the video, which will make it a lot easier for you to do it if you decide to do it at home. So that being said, let's get started. Okay everyone, as you know, preparation is extremely important in any recipe. Today what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the ingredients, the prep for the ingredients in the order that they're listed in the recipe. The first thing that we need is going to be yellow onions, and I'll show you how to do that. The first thing you're going to need is a sharp knife, and I hope all of you went to the Joanne Wojcik School of Knife Sharpening, because it needs to be sharp, and by sharp I mean like that. You want to make sure that it's really, really sharp, and because a dull knife is more dangerous, you have to press harder on the food. When you do that, the chances of it slipping and cutting you is greater. So, sharp knife, we're going to take a yellow onion. Originally I used a mandolin, sliced it thin and chopped it, but a lot of you don't have mandolins, so I'm going to show you the Joanne Wojcik method of fine dicing an onion. So we cut the end off there, keep the root intact, cut it in half. We'll peel it. That. Okay. And now what you're going to do is you're going to cut in a radius around the onion. I'll show you how to do that. All cuts going towards the center. And then to dice it, all you have to do is that. And there's your fine dice. You're going to need 2 pounds of onions diced. If you went to the Kay Bollinger School of Chopping Onions, when she made gumbo a couple of years ago, it was absolutely fabulous. And she uses, there it is, she uses chopped onions. You can buy these at Publix. They're like $1.60, $1.70 a bag. 3 bags of this is approximately 2 pounds of onions, and it'll save you a lot of heartache. Incidentally, the onions that you're going to be having in your goulash tonight are those onions. They are chopped just to the perfect size. Okay folks, now that we have our onions chopped, I put 4 tablespoons, which is the next ingredient, of clarified butter. I'm not going to tell you how to clarify butter. You can buy it in the grocery store. I'll show you what it looks like. You can buy it in the grocery store. It's also called ghee. But you can use regular butter for this too. So 4 tablespoons of butter, clarified or not. And then we're going to add our 2 pounds of onions. And I'm going to put that in my favorite pot. And we're going to put this over medium to medium-low heat, and we're going to cook it for about 30 minutes or so until those onions are just nicely browned. Not too brown, but just enough to give it that caramelized flavor. And every once in a while during that 30 minutes you're going to come in and you're going to stir it to make sure that those onions brown evenly. Okay folks, my onions are starting to cook now, and we'll be stirring those and making those evenly brown. The reason I love this recipe is because normally when you make a stew, which is essentially what beef goulash is, most people out there who've made stew know that to thicken the gravy you have to either reduce it to an extended period of time until it gets to that thickness, which is almost impossible to reach, or you have to mix flour or cornstarch or potato starch and water and thicken it that way. This goulash is not thickened that way. It's thickened when these onions completely disintegrate and they form this beautiful consistency that is the gravy. So you're going to be very surprised and delighted when you see the consistency of this. The next ingredient in our recipe is the beef. There are many different cuts of beef that you can use for this. I chose chuck steak because even though chuck is a very tough type of meat, when you braise it, as we are going to be doing, it becomes the most tender, juicy piece of meat that you can possibly have in a stew. In fact, if you go out, you could actually buy stew meat. It's labeled stew meat in the meat section of your grocery store, and that's what it is. It's cut up chuck steak. So you can get it already cut up, but I like to cut mine up myself because each one of these cubes is 1 inch to 1.5 inches. That's the size that you're going to want for the best results in your stew. Okay, the next ingredient is garlic. So I'm going to take this head of garlic. I'm going to choose 3 relatively nice sized cloves here. Do that. Aside. And we need to chop this, coarsely chop it. And see how easy it is to skin once you pummel it with a knife. 3 cloves of garlic. Okay, crush each one of these with the knife. Okay, put it together. Okay, once we have this coarsely chopped, what we're going to do is we are going to add a teaspoon of fennel seeds. And I'll measure out about a teaspoon there. And the reason they have you do this, they want you to finely chop the garlic with the fennel seeds. And that helps meld these flavors. And chopping the garlic and the fennel seeds will release the flavor more dramatically in the dish. So I'm going to fine chop the garlic with the fennel seeds. Okay, and that looks pretty good right there. Okay, now we're going to move on to our next ingredient. Okay guys, our onions have another 10 or so minutes to go before they're browned. In the meantime, we set up all the other ingredients. As you see over here, we have the beef that we cubed up into 1.5 inch cubes. We have the garlic and the caraway seeds, and by the way, I made a mistake there. It's not fennel seeds, it's caraway seeds that we chopped up. We have 2 teaspoons of dried marjoram over here. We have 2 tablespoons of sweet paprika, and for some reason the goulash dishes love paprika. It gives it a really nice mellow flavor and a nicer color. We have 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. We have 3 tablespoons of red wine vinegar that's going to give it that nice little kick at the end there. We have 1 3/4 cups of beef broth here. And we have 2 bay leaves. And as soon as the onions are done, we're going to be adding all of these ingredients in order, and we'll show you what that looks like. Okay folks, so you can see that the onions are browning really nicely here. And if you also notice, on the bottom of the pan, there's all of that beautiful brown from the onions. So what we're going to do is, we're going to pour in one of the ingredients, and that is the 1 3/4 cups of beef broth. We're going to pour that in, and that'll deglaze the bottom of the pan and mix in all of that beautiful browning from the bottom, and that's really going to give it some flavor. Okay, and now we're going to put the ingredients in the order that it tells you to. Okay, we're going to pour in the 3 tablespoons of red wine vinegar. We're going to sprinkle the paprika over the top, and we're going to add the cubed beef, just like that. I'm going to give that a quick stir, get all that beautiful, and if you notice, normally with a stew, a lot of people are accustomed to browning the meat ahead of time, sometimes coating it with flour and browning it. Don't have to do it with this stew. Just put the meat in as is, cube it up and pour it in there. We are also going to be putting in the garlic and caraway seeds that we chopped before. We're going to be putting in the marjoram, and we're going to be putting in the tomato paste. Not to mention the 2 bay leaves, just like that. And we'll give that a quick stir. Mix all those ingredients together. Okay, that's mixed up rather nicely, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover it, and we're going to put it into a 325 degree oven for about 2 hours.